If it doesn't.
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy. Hard times are when the textile workers around this country are out of work. They got 4 or 5 kids and can't pay their wages, can't buy their food. Hard times are when the auto workers are out of work and they tell them go home. And hard times are when a man has worked at a job 30 years. 30 years. They give him a watch, kick him in the butt, and say, hey, a computer took your place, Daddy. That's hard time. That's hard time.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Hard Times. We are in Hard Times right now, and the WWEC Radio is live here at Endicott College. We're going to be going over all things WWE, all things pro wrestling related, diving into not only the production side of things, but the characters, everything that is the WWE today. Alongside me, Tommy Sharp, I got my co-host here. Why don't you give a shout out, Graham?
Graham G.S. Matthews, sitting alongside Tom Sharp here. That was, I don't know if I could top that. That was a pretty great intro. It's a pretty great way of introducing things. And like you said, hard times of wrestling. So I really can't go I can't top it. That was pretty great. Got to give you props.
Most appreciated. Well, I mean, we got hard times facing Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Brock Lesnar. The main event coming up in Fastlane on this road to WrestleMania, as we are forced to take every year. But it's interesting to have this in-between pay-per-view that always kind of got left out into no man's land. And now we have some pretty big stakes every year coming out of the Royal Rumble. So curious to hear your thoughts on our upcoming main event, and we'll kind of backtrail into that.
Well, especially in previous years, like you said, it seems like the February pay-per-views that I've felt in the last year or so have pretty much been unnecessary. I mean, in recent years, with the WrestleMania plans have been reshuffled around so much that it makes this year's installment all the more important. But it certainly feels like in recent years, like in going back on the network, which is amazing, by the way. $9.99 is an absolute steal of a deal. But going back and watching No Way Out pay-per-views from the early 2000s when you had Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Triple H, 2 out of 3 count falls, 3 stages of hell. Now we got a great wrestling match in the main event of Fastlane, but like we've talked about previously, makes zero sense from a booking standpoint. Roman Reigns is the #1 enemy in WWE right now, so what would prompt the Authority to give him a title shot, and Dean Ambrose for that matter, and even Brock Lesnar, who got wiped from the Rumble within minutes at the Royal Rumble match. So it's going to be a great match in ring-wise, but just from a booking standpoint, it leaves a lot to be desired, but I'm excited nevertheless.
And that's all great points all around. And this is the level of talk, ladies and gentlemen out there, that wrestling fans find themselves forced into all of the time, because the movement, the quickness, the pace at which pay-per-views come around every month, the way that storylines develop, this is WWE's bread and butter. And you can clearly see that when let's take a more generalized example for a second here. Let's pull it back for everybody to get a perspective on what's going on. When you take a look at what Fox Television did this past week with the Grease Live, right? A lot of people excited about Grease. A lot of people love the characters in Grease. You know, they understand it's been a Broadway play. It's obviously a movie, John Travolta. They have a live show with all kinds of new celebrity cast members. They have a huge production that they are going to be broadcasting live on the Fox network. Big deal for them. Mm-hmm. Everybody criticized it and ripped it to shreds. Even people that liked it. Even people that love Grease, even people that can forgive all of the production sides of things and all of the flamboyantness and all of the over-the-top kind of cartoon zaniness that it was, people still ripped it apart. And that is live television. That is live television all day long. That is you sitting at home watching Monday Night Football, getting absolutely livid at the referees on the field because they can't turn their microphones on correctly. Absolutely livid that these camera angles missed the key play. Absolutely livid that you did not get to see every single element and every single angle of something that you care so deeply about and you are invested in right then and there. And that is entertainment. That is why the sports side of things, whether it's the NFL, whether it's the WWE, whether it's the physical prowess of singing or just anything physical, when it's televised, when it's put in front of you, that is when it's entertainment. And the production value and the people that work every single day that travel on the road in these trucks, setting up all of these rigs, cameras, microphones, balancing, mixing boards, all of that, just so that you can rip it apart and tell them every single flaw that you found in everything. That is what makes the WWE so fun. They are on every single Monday. They have an entire Netflix-style network of their entire history of a company, of the tradition of wrestling, everything that they can get their legal hands on to televise and archive for you to find and discover is all right there. And that therein lies a critical issue for today's product. You can go back and watch some of the greatest matches, see some of the greatest promos, watch some of the greatest performers and athletes of any generation. And when you compare that to today, that is why the bar is set so high. People like Ric Flair, people like Dusty Rhodes, people setting the bar higher than you can imagine. Macho Man Randy Savage here in our office as we record. But that is why we care so much. When you look at the integrity of any sport, when you look at the integrity of the NFL and what has gone on in the past year here in Massachusetts with the New England Patriots and the tension between the league and this team, the media story is so much more serious because it's real. These people are real and this is their real lives. There's no scripting about it. But what if it was scripted? What if you could take that same amount of tension and drama and really put it into something that you could tell as a story? And that is what you get when you watch WWE television pretty much every week. And that is the kind of hook into all of this, that we are not watching actual violence. We are not watching some MMA fight where people are literally at each other's throats. You know, you are watching supreme coordination, supreme athletic talent, the ability to not only be a physical specimen and a sight to see from any distance at home or in person, but you are getting that personality. That same person has to pick up a microphone and entertain you and sell you on the fact that they have a character, that they have depth. And that is what any good actor's role is. So there are so many elements at play, and that's just the entertainment side. We have the whole technical side behind all of this. And we have the WWE network that has literally, not only did the WWE and some other unmentionable industries really push forward the pay-per-view elements into our broadcasting mix, but now with streaming services, they have come directly to their fan base and given everybody an opportunity to see their product for free, much to my consternation because I actually pay for it. But you can often see WWE pay-per-views on their network for free, $9.99, and they have a lot of free offers and giveaways. So I would highly recommend checking it out. If you've ever been a fan or interested at all, seeing wrestling and understanding where things have been and where we are now is highly important.
I think at its very core, it's an art form. I think what makes wrestling to me so unique and so special is that there's something a part of not even just WWE, but any organization, as you mentioned, that there's something for people to kind of latch onto, to invest in. There's one character on every wrestling promotion, specifically WWE, that does characters. I mean, we criticize them from time to time, but they do that aspect of things tremendously well. I mean, it's unparalleled compared to any other TV show, sports organization, and there's a huge debate. There always has been, at least in the last 10 years, most prominently, pro wrestling versus sports entertainment. And I'll ask you in a second what you think of it is. But from what you're saying, it's exactly... I mean, I love to call pro wrestling too. That's what we are. I'm not going to say I'm a sports entertainment fan, but you can't criticize Vince for calling it sports entertainment because they have the wrestling aspect. They cover that down. They're live, like you said, every single Monday. But what people don't realize is that they're doing live events. They're traveling all across the world. And when they're not doing that, they're doing media. When they're not doing that, they're doing charity. Like, they're always constantly going. No job comes close to even matching that. And it's just kind of along the lines that people just don't really understand that. But that's one of the reasons, kind of going off what you said, is that that's a reason to check it out. Like, if you don't like John Cena, as many of us smarks, I guess, do, whatever you want to classify us as, there is someone to like. I'm wearing a Dean Ambrose jacket with a Kevin Owens shirt right now. That is almost a cardinal sin as a wrestling fan. But there's just so many people out there that I enjoy watching that I'm sure even the person that does not like wrestling, watch wrestling, or feels that it's beneath them, which I feel so passé, as Vince himself said in the dawning of the Attitude Era 15, 20 years ago, that there is something for everyone to like. Even like the shows like Jersey Shore that I could not give two craps about whatsoever. I'm sure there's a character in there for me, for anybody. But I want to get your take on it. What do you classify it as? I mean, obviously, like I said, we do not classify ourselves as, we're not going to say, oh, I'm going to a sports entertainment show tonight. We're going to WWE. We're going to Raw, whatever. But what would you say it is? Pro wrestling or sports entertainment?
I would honestly say that it's fake. I'm kidding. No.
Turn off the radio now.
That I say that because that is probably the elephant in the room for anybody that is still getting into wrestling, is that they have this connotation that it's fake. No matter what you say, no matter how many elements you describe to them as to why it would be interesting, it ultimately comes down to this inherent conversation of, this is staged, and I don't like the idea that this is staged entertainment and I'm supposed to understand competition. I think we've all kind of warped our idea of competition, and that is why I love the idea of pro wrestling. I think that it embraces wrestling as a sport, and professional athletes of any kind, from a bodybuilding background, from a martial arts background, from an actual collegiate and professional Olympic wrestling background. Several people throughout the entire history of wrestling have come from all different athletic backgrounds, football teams, NFL teams, to compete in this combination of intelligence, imagination, character, and physical acumen. And that's why I believe pro wrestling represents who those athletes are. I believe what sports entertainment is the packaged product. It's the final edited thing. When I go see a house show, and a house show is, what Graham was talking about, where they travel in between the television tapings and still have matches, those are pro wrestlers that I'm watching. They're coming out and doing the same types of matches that you would see in the 70s, 80s, 90s, any era. You're coming out and seeing a vaudevillian display of entertainment. And that those athletes are pro wrestlers. But when you're on television and you're an actor and you're talking to the camera and you have to hit very specific spots, and what is often criticized of creative directions, lines that they write for these characters, I think that that's the sports entertainment. And I think that both terms for me are okay. I think the term I identify most with is pro wrestling, because that's how I see their own development. If you look at the development of, or the developmental areas in any sports leagues, between baseball with their single A through triple A programs, the NFL, from colleges to their developmental training camps, everybody comes from somewhere very simple. They come from a very rigid set of exercise and practice and routine. And you see that in the NXT developmental program now at the WWE Performance Center in Florida. And those people are still in there working every single day, training their bodies, training their minds for being on broadcast. And I think that that is what endears you to being a pro wrestler. Once you are out there entertaining, you are under the umbrella of sports entertainment, because if that person lands on their head and gets a blinding concussion, you can't blame the athlete for that. You have to be able to shield yourself as a business and say that this is part of how we entertain. When you're at a Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circus and someone falls from the trapeze and gets hurt, the circus is to blame, not necessarily the harness company or anything that led to that injury. So I think that while we are fed the sports entertainment moniker from a corporate standpoint and to a way to conceptualize how wrestling fits into a marketplace where everyone thinks it's fake, you have to add on the sports entertainment part so that you come out and acknowledge that right away and you don't feel like you're trying to hoodwink anyone. But these people are pro wrestlers, and that's what they should be referred to as.
Exactly. I mean, in 2016, I feel like it's common knowledge. There's always going to be people out there that are going to say, oh, it's fake, it's beneath me, whatever. I feel like that got tossed out the window a long time ago, especially right after the Attitude Era when it was, or even maybe like the 80s when it was cool to watch wrestling in the Hulk Hogan era and the Stone Cold Steve Austin era, especially people among my generation in college. But moving even past that in the mid-2000s, early 2010s, when it was still kind of looked down on as a sport, as a form of entertainment, I feel like we've kind of come a long way since then with everything they do beyond the ring, which I greatly, commend them for. Like I said, the charity stuff and whatever else that doesn't really get the publicity that it deserves. I mean, obviously stuff when someone dies, like a Chris Benoit or a Roddy Piper, or an Ultimate Warrior specifically, who I absolutely love. But did steroids have something to do with it? Absolutely. But I mean, that stuff gets publicized so much that I feel like it kind of overshadows everything that you just said and the positive aspects of wrestling that, that's just typically the media and the agenda setting and stuff like that. But regardless, though, I absolutely agree that there are just some parts of the business that people just don't understand, that sports entertainment, they're not trying to make you believe that it's real. Going into it, I don't watch it thinking it's real. I watch it suspending my disbelief, wanting to be entertained. And the pro wrestling aspect term of it, in that they're going out there having amazing matches, putting their bodies on the line for us that people don't appreciate, but people just don't really, put value in that. But, steroids have been prominent throughout every sport, not just wrestling. I mean, I feel like that's the common go-to excuse for why it's a looked down upon sport, if that makes sense. But still, I feel like it's come a long way. Proud to be a wrestling fan, especially now.
Yeah, no, it is a great time to be a wrestling fan, and the production value has never been higher. I've never seen a live production, especially being in the Boston Garden and seeing some of their live events. It transforms their design teams in an instant. It feels like they plug in and transform the entire building into a completely escapist entertainment world for you. And the atmosphere around you, from the sounds, the sights, the colors, the brightness, the pyrotechnics. I mean, this is a very big showcase of pomp and circumstance. It is the grandest stage every time, and they have to set that. And for all the flack that Vince McMahon, WWE Creative, Triple H, whoever you want to throw or the dart at and say is the problem with the product, for all the flack they do, I want somebody to tell me, another creator, another producer that goes out every single day of the week on the road, producing a show, coming up with a brand new script, story content, almost 365 days a year. Show me somebody that doesn't fall more times than they win when you have that kind of schedule in front of you. And I'm not saying, there's a definite big argument to say that maybe there should be an off season for WWE wrestling, and maybe some of these guys would in the stories and the fan base would benefit. But I think you take it away even for a minute and people notice big time, and I think that they just don't see the value in it, and I don't blame them. I don't think there is a value for wrestling going away. I think it's on us as the consumers, as the fans, to give them the leeway to stumble and fall sometimes, and not be as hard on them immediately. And they believe in long games. They believe in long evolving storylines, very much, like the evolution of Triple H becoming a 14-time World Heavyweight Champion at the Royal Rumble.
I feel like, especially from the production standpoint, I've brought people to shows before that aren't wrestling fans, relatives, friends, whatever. And I think above all else, whether they like wrestling or not, more oftentimes they aren't a fan, but they respect it, if that makes sense. But they'll go to the shows, and every single time they come away from the show, they have a good time. They have a fun time. Because whether WWE, I know when we watch Raw, they do recaps of stuff we saw 5 minutes ago, but you got to look at it from not a consumer standpoint, but from the corporate standpoint. They're trying to bring in new viewers. They're trying to entertain us, the diehards, but they're trying to entice new viewers to come in and stick around and watch wrestling, sports entertainment, Raw every week. they know we're not going away. There's fans like, oh, I'm going to cancel the network. I'm not going to watch anymore. They don't care about us because they know we're going to be back. Wrestling is weird. It's like almost a drug, which is weird because I'm straight edge and whatever, but it's weird because they know that we're going to come back eventually. It's one of those TV shows that you don't really fall out of because you know down the line you're going to come back. Whether it's 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 years, 2 decades, everyone comes back around full circle, eventually, almost everybody. But are you familiar with the All-Stars video game by any chance? That came out a couple years ago?
Yeah.
It's a great video game. Played that a lot freshman year. And a kid that was on my floor who I'm very good friends with came in, not really a wrestling fan, but he's like, you know what, I'm going to stick around and watch, not for the match, because that's a great game, such a fun game, but he's like, the video packages, I don't know if you remember them or not, when they would play them before all the matches, it was like Ultimate Warrior and Sheamus, Battle of the Warriors, Celtic Warrior, Ultimate Warrior, and the video package they do, I mean, I've said this a million times, non-viewers might not realize this, but the production of the company is second to none. The video packages that they do are amazing. He's like, I just want to watch these all day. I don't even want to play the game. I just want to watch these video packages because the way that they can construct a story, and for me, that's, at the end of the day, the reason why I watch, in addition to the action and production and everything else, just being unparalleled to everything else, anything else in the world, is the storytelling. And like you said, we can always criticize the head honcho, Vince, Triple H, creative, whoever, who go through absolute hell to entertain us with their stories, and it's not going to be perfect 85% of the time, but you got to appreciate at the end of the day the way that what they're dealing with, the stories they're putting out, and the production they're doing it with is just incredible. Like, I've never seen anything, even in movies, I feel like they've done it better than sometimes. The Punk and Cena promo from like 5 years ago, my favorite match of all time, the promo before that was great. Like, promos like that, and the production itself, as you mentioned, is just incredible. It doesn't get enough credit, which we're kind of summarizing here, but that to me is what it just makes it more special, just unlike anything else in the world right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think what's unique about wrestling is what's unique about comic books. And if you look at the acquisition of Marvel Comics by Disney, it is very telling of the level of storytelling, character development, and this new rise of everything needs a universe of characters. Like, whether I agree with that or not, I like one-off stories. I like short-run ideas. I like things that come and make a big impact and move on and evolve into something else and contribute to the whole. But if you're going to have a universe of characters, there is very few properties out there that can even start ramping up to the number of characters over the years, the number of people in the WWE Hall of Fame, the number of people that have given their lives, sacrificed their bodies, and given all of their family time to this company for somebody else's entertainment. That says a lot about the integrity of this industry, and the ability to criticize it is something that is something that they almost craft for us. They give us a forum, they give us an ability, and since I was young, there has always been dirt sheets. There has always been talk about what goes on behind those doors, because everyone always wants to know more and more and more. And I think that with all of these characters and all these universes, nobody wants their bubble to be broken. Whether you like the behind-the-scenes element, there's plenty for you to discover about who these people really are. If you choose to believe in kayfabe, and you only want these characters and your favorite wrestlers to talk specifically in character, much like the New Day, live their character every day wherever they are, I think that there is something for every type of fan out there, and I just being able to set that stage for everyone before we dive into the Smarky Mark and the Funky Bunch level of detail that goes into every event that we have coming up. I think just setting that stage for everyone out there and letting people know that it's okay to check out professional wrestling. You're not a nerd.
Especially at this point. I mean, I love the comparison with comic books. It's almost identical. I mean, there's so much in common between comic books and wrestling and whatever. In comic books, too, even that word nerd has come such a long way. I classify myself as a wrestling nerd, and I feel like at this point in time, it's not really a derogatory term. I mean, people like Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, AJ Lee, who are very much into comic books, have talked about this before, or wrestling or whatever, that it's come such a long way. Like you said, Disney didn't buy out Marvel for no reason, not just for the money. I mean, it's such a huge franchise, and a lot like wrestling, there's someone for everybody to like. There's so many characters in the Marvel Universe, and even beyond that with DC. Like with WWE, TNA, there's someone for everyone to like. And if you don't like Marvel, you can go over to DC, or if you don't like WWE, you can watch TNA or Lucha or whatever. There's something for everybody to like. And it's such a huge market that I feel like, a lot like comic books, have come such a long way in the last 5 years even. I mean, I've never before seen so much the Marvel movies a part of pop culture than ever before. It's
absolutely true.
Incredible, you know? I'm not one of the type of people that hates on bandwagon fans, that only watches for WrestleMania. Like, the more people that we have viewing our product, the better, you know? If you only know John Cena or The Undertaker, I'm not going to criticize you for only watching maybe once a week or whatever. You don't really watch Raw that often.
And that
you know?
speaks to the reach that anything can have a character that you're just generally aware of, you know, and whoever that might be. It's very telling as to at what point that may have been on your radar, or maybe your friends were into it at one point. So, but let's dive in a little bit here to what we got coming up.
Absolutely, I'm ready.
So this past Monday on Raw, Brock Lesnar kicked off the show, and it was always good to see Paul Heyman back on television. I think he's definitely getting even more anxious all the time about his client Brock Lesnar, but it was good to see Dean Ambrose come out and be right in his face about that.
I thought it was cool. I mean, like we talked about the other day, seeing Lesnar with anybody, whether it's Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns we kind of saw last year, but even that, if he was in the ring with a Curtis Axel, just seeing him in the ring alone with people that he's never crossed paths with before, I feel is so special. Like, every time he enters an arena, there's a special aura about the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. The way from Paul Heyman playing him up to be the most special entity in WWE, not only today, but in history of this company, it's incredible. Because, I mean, you can always say that he's around only a couple times a year, but I feel like that works to his benefit. The less he's around, the more special he is, the less is more. You know, I've seen people clamoring for John Cena to come back. He's been on TV so little in the past 4 months. I mean, I know he got hurt, but I feel like even then he wouldn't have been on TV even that much, considering if he just came back from injury, because he was on Raw maybe once or twice before he got hurt again, and he was off TV not because he was injured before, but because he was filming a TV show. People are starting to realize that less is more, at least the higher ups are, but Lesnar is a prime example of that, and it was cool to see him and Ambrose in the same ring on Monday. Yeah,
and for me, Lesnar is diving, tipping his toes in at least into some heel territory. He keeps he's got a special relationship with his employer in that he gets to dictate when, how, and why he gets to come back, and whether or not he gets the biggest push or the opportunity immediately to go for the belt. He's always in the conversation. He has to be. And if he shows up, he's in the conversation. And I think that kind of privilege, that kind of relationship, even if it's coerced by Paul Heyman onto the authority, onto the people that are booking, his commanding presence is making a statement. His statement is, I'm in this for me. I'm in this for Brock Lesnar. I'm in this to make accomplishments and continue pushing my career and my idea of what I want to mold and create and accomplish for myself forward. And when he laughs in Dean Ambrose's face, that's why he's laughing. He's laughing because Dean Ambrose is out there acknowledging him, acknowledging the fact that there is privilege in front of him. Brock Lesnar gets the privilege of being in a triple threat match instead of a one-on-one match at Fastlane. Ambrose knows that he has a great chance at probably taking out Roman Reigns. He will not go down. He's the self-admitted Iron Man of the WWE, and I couldn't be happier about that moniker. I think it fits him very well. But he's never faced someone like Brock Lesnar. Physically, I mean, height-wise, they're almost the same height. That was a good observation you pointed out. But beyond that, he is a noodle in comparison to the beef hot dog incarnate Brock Lesnar. He's definitely in for a physical battle, which I know is something Dean Ambrose can really take. So I feel like I got to be in Ambrose's court on this one. I think that Roman Reigns has certainly had more than one opportunity to get this belt, to hold on to this belt and hold on to this opportunity, and he keeps letting it slip. And that keeps frustrating him visibly on camera. It keeps frustrating him to the point where he has to make threats and idle comments and basically be a bully whenever he's questioned about why he's still pursuing this. And the reason why he's being pushed and the reason why he's getting criticism from the authority is because he keeps dropping the ball or having the ball taken away from him. However you want to look at that, Dean Ambrose right now for me is in a hotter seat and a better position going into Fastlane than Roman Reigns.
Brock Lesnar, I got to take the same side in that. Not anti-Roman Reigns. I don't.
Not
like
anti-Roman Reigns.
Yeah, exactly.
I do like Roman Reigns quite a bit. But
same.
This is where he's at.
Yeah. I feel like even with Brock Lesnar, too, I'm on the Ambrose Asylum train, I guess, as well. But I'm also a part of the Beast Incarnate fan base in that Brock Lesnar, what's so great about him, and again, it really kind of all goes back to showing up a couple times a year, but his storyline arc, you know his motives. I feel like the biggest issue with WWE's characters today is that we don't really know who these people or who they are or what they're all about. Love Ryback, but what's his current motivation? Yes. Brock Lesnar is back to become the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. He is here to dominate. He is here to take out everyone in his path of destruction.
Clear intentions, always. And that is, I believe, what gains him that privilege. He is clear about why he's here. It's either my way or I'll happily go back to what I was doing. And I think you have to realize that if you want real competition in the WWE, to ignore Brock Lesnar as the competition in the WWE is to say that somebody else could really fill that spot. And I don't think anybody could right now. After beating The Undertaker twice, after really putting a nail in that coffin, who's left? He has suplexed Cena to pieces. He's taken a chair to the Big Show and just completely broken that man.
He's taken Seth Rollins to Suplex City several times.
He's taken Seth Rollins to Suplex City. Roman Reigns has been beaten in with an inch of his life multiple occasions. So it is the competition that is Brock Lesnar, and I think that is why the main event is still in his corner. He is the main event, and that's why Dean Ambrose and people that are in the hot seat go to him. That's why it's not Ambrose out there kicking things off. It is Brock Lesnar kicking things off going into Fastlane. So, but Raw always kind of does kick off pretty big like that, and just setting the stage for what is to come. And I think that's a very clever tactic that they've always done well by, and I think it really puts the microphone in the right people's hands to kick off the show. But then we go right into more action. We have Kalisto versus Rusev with Alberto Del Rio on commentary following that match, and Kalisto is looking really, really strong after getting the U.S. title back in his hands. Two-time champ in a short amount of time.
Yeah, within the matter of maybe 3 or 4
couple weeks. Yeah.
I don't like the fact that they did that match. They went back to that well as many times as they did. I don't know if it's the law of diminishing returns, but they've done it 5 times maybe, the match, including at Fastlane. They're doing a rematch, which I forgot to mention. They're doing the rematch for the U.S. Championship. They announced it during this match between Alberto Del Rio and Kalisto. 5th time's a charm, I guess, in that respect. Again, not a complaint because their matches are always good, but in Del Rio, I'm not really sure what his health status currently is. I read that he wrestled on SmackDown. We'll find out tonight. I know he's in a match, a tag team match.
I've heard very healthy things about Del Rio, but think about this. When Alberto Del Rio was being brought up in the ranks for the WWE, he was in competition with Rey Mysterio Jr. And the two of them really battled it out. Rey Mysterio being, a very commendable athlete, respectable person all around, and Alberto Del Rio trying to fill those boots of some of the great wrestlers of his heritage, right? And now that has completely corrupted Alberto Del Rio. He is a self-absorbed man, and he is obsessed with anybody that is trying to take that spotlight from him. And I believe that Kalisto coming in, being as fast as Kalisto is, being as dynamic as Kalisto is, it bothers Alberto Del Rio because he looks better than he's ever done in his career. He looks like an action figure. He is chiseled to perfection. His spots are dead on. His ring awareness is dead on. His holds are dead on, and they look hard. Everything he does looks rough on his opponents, and still he cannot best Kalisto in this matchup. He is not fast enough to maintain what the U.S. title can become. John Cena, just as fast. Can be. For a big guy, can be just as fast, goes out there and defends that every week. Kalisto is going to continue to be able to go out there and defend this because he's that quick, because he can slip out of holds, because he can put you in a roll-up faster than you can get him into a leg lock.
And he can work well with anyone who's in the ring with. Rusev had a pretty good match, had never before seen that match before. His match with Neville was really, really good on SmackDown last week for the U.S. Championship. Had a couple good matches with Del Rio. Question, though, why aren't you not working for creative? Because that theory I thought was fantastic. He wants to knock off the next Latino star. I guess the answer is that because it's too logical. Like, it makes too much sense. That's why they won't do it. Or at least, I love the motivation that Del Rio is trying to knock off Kalisto as, oh, you're taking my spot as this company's Latino star. That's why they hired me back. That's why I'm back here in this company, to represent the Mexican audience. And that's why he was doing a couple years ago.
He's about, Alberto Del Rio, he's a reasonable man. He's about opportunity. Mm-hmm. The opportunity for Alberto Del Rio to always be on top and for you to be beneath him. And any other lucha star, any other Mexican wrestler, any other Spanish influence in the WWE has to run through Alberto Del Rio. He is the standard bearer of that level, and he sees the promise in the U.S. title. He sees what that title can represent. It's opportunity. It's opportunity to continue on being the best and continue on that path for championship stardom. And now that he can't do that, the Intercontinental title is all locked up. He's definitely not going into the tag team division anytime soon. And if he thinks he's going to be next in line to face Brock Lesnar, I would love to see him try. But for now, he's got his sights set on a what he believes is a modest goal. But I don't think he's going to come out on top. I think Kalisto will continue to best him to his own frustration. So
I think it's a great motivation for him to want to have that opportunity, being the head of the Latino audience, being the face of that demographic and giving people opportunity as United States champion. That's very admirable. That's an admirable characteristic about a wrestler. But what makes him a heel is that he's all about opportunity, yet he's not doing what came before him in the form of the U.S. Open Challenge. John Cena did that. He went out every single week and put that belt on the line in some of the best matches of 2015. He was involved in maybe 4 of the 5 best matches on the main roster last year, no joke. Easily. And but Del Rio says he's all about opportunity, but he won't do that. He didn't defend the belt too much at all. He defended the belt maybe once against Swagger before he dropped it to Kalisto, and that's what makes Del Rio a good heel.
And that's when you see the real Del Rio come out. It's in this match between Kalisto and Rusev. When Kalisto gets the better on Rusev and gets a count-out victory, Del Rio is livid, not at Kalisto, for his tactics. He puts that blame squarely on Rusev, as in a way to say, you have made me look bad.
You're representing the League of Nations.
Representing the League of Nations. You have made me look bad in front of my competition. That is just, I came out here to comment on how great the League of Nations is at dismantling any one of our opponents for the betterment of our group, and you can't accomplish that. And I think that Rusev has had some hard times lately.
It goes back to that.
Always goes back to hard times. But yeah, I just thought that him putting that blame on Rusev was very telling of how anxious he is about what's going to happen when he has to face Kalisto again for that title. So, and then following that, we have the Social Outcasts squaring off against the Usos.
Whoa.
Obviously, the Usos pretend to be your friend. They come up to your lunch table, they make a ton of noise, and they probably steal something that you're eating. That's who the Usos are. They're good guys, though, right? They're really good. They smile a lot. They're friends with all the other good guys, but they still steal something from you when you're eating. That's how I feel about the Usos. You're stealing my lunch. I don't like you. I'm just gonna come out there and say that. I like the good guy, and those two guys, they ride the line between being bullies and just completely aloof. You're supposed to just kind of love them for being these lovable slapstick kind of characters, and I just don't. I don't see that. I don't see any of the color or the vibrance that they bring to things. I just see a lot of bravado. And in Curtis Axel and Adam Rose, I almost called him Axl Rose, but it's perfect. I love that. But in Curtis Axel and Adam Rose, you see nothing but focus. You see focus on who they are. They're in there to be themselves. They can't help it. That's who they are. They're not inherently good or bad. They're out there because it's time to hit somebody really hard. That's the only way I'm going to make progress. It's the only way these guys know how to make progress. And I don't even know if Adam Rose knows what building he's in. But when he gets in that ring and he's laser focused on something, you're not going to see him coming when he hits you out of nowhere. And that's him. He's blindsides you. He's a snake in the grass.
Yep.
He doesn't. He'll tell you right to your face that he doesn't care about you. He doesn't like you. And that's at least more admirable, a little bit more honest than trying to convince people that these other people are bad and we're good. That's what the Usos do. They try to convince you, they brainwash you. It's a reverse tactic. And I have a conspiracy theory to represent right now. I'll see what your thoughts are on this, but I believe that the Usos and Roman Reigns and The Rock, they are the true heels. They have always been the heels. So it started with The Rock. He absolutely led the people to believe in him falsely by always putting the people down. And now they love him eternally. And it's the same thing with the Usos. You keep putting people down, they keep coming back for more. They keep wanting to be your friend because you won't let them be your friend. That's who the Usos are. And that's why I think Curtis Axel and Adam Rose, obviously they got defeated, but I think that they put on a good show and did their part. So.
Well, first of all, I will subscribe to that theory. I think it's a good theory, and I absolutely believe you in that. Second of all, I think it comes down to character development. The Usos have been the same guys for years. They've been in WWE for, believe it or not, almost 6 years at this point. They debuted June 2010, and they've been the same characters. Well, no, I'll take that back. They did evolve. When they first came in, they were with Tamina. You knew nothing about them. At that point, I had no idea they were The Rock's cousins. And now they just don't go a week without telling us that every single week, and on NXT with Nia Jax. But they put on the face paint. They said, this represents war. This represents our late Uncle Umaga. We're doing this for him. We're here doing it for The Rock, like Rikishi voice. But you know what I mean? Like they established the motivation that people got behind them in their pursuit of the tag team titles. And they've been the same tag team ever since. We've seen them. They're like the Page of the Divas title picture. They're like the John Cena with the WWE title. Not so much in the past year, but you know what I mean. Before that, he was constantly in the World Championship conversation. The Usos, there has not been a point in the last at least 3 years that they have not been in pursuit in the tag team title conversation. And people don't like that. Fans of wrestling, I hate to admit it, are very fickle. I am guilty of it at times as well. But the Usos, I do like the team. I absolutely agree with what you're saying, that with their characters, and I think the reason is that they've always been like that.
Yeah.
And they have to change it up. I'm not suggesting they go heel, but maybe a switch of the trunks or even some colors or something.
And I think they stay the course. I'd love for them to stay the course because the audience will turn on them. Because people will eventually get sick of them either being on top or them constantly putting down somebody that really doesn't need to be put down at that moment.
Or people they like in the form of the New Day.
Yeah.
They're going to side with the New Day. I know when I was
coming out and cheap shotting the New Day because The Rock is in the ring. I don't understand the motivation for coming out of the back because the New Day walked away from a fight that nobody deserved to see for free, by the way. But you have these two goons come out of the backstage on The Rock's command and beat up people that walked away from a fight. How are they in the right? How does that make them in the right? And you know what? Maybe time will tell what that's going to look like as The Rock continues to be involved in a feud with the New Day and the Usos going into Fastlane, which I'm very excited for.
Absolutely.
I'm less excited about Dwayne showing up, and I would really love The Rock to show up. But I think the only difference that I can tell is that The Rock wears sunglasses and Dwayne doesn't. And when the sunglasses are on, somehow he's a little bit more fluid on the microphone.
I don't know what it is.
I'm the same way too, and I have to host shows. I almost thought about it today. If I had sunglasses on, I'd probably be, like 10 degrees cooler. So, what do I know? But definitely looking forward to Fastlane. Definitely looking forward to SmackDown this week. SmackDown has been the #1 show for me every single week. The commentary is off the charts.
Specifically, got to give credit to Jerry Lawler.
Jerry stepped up
a lot.
Stepped up as being the Jerry Lawler I love. The king of wrestling.
10 years ago,
The absolute lord and ruler of what's right and wrong with what you are seeing is Jerry Lawler. I've met him in person at Boston Comic Con. He is one of the most stand-up gentlemen you could possibly run into. He is a very sincere person, but make no mistake, when he makes a comment about someone, you better be listening because it's probably close to accurate.
Especially nowadays. I feel like with the babyface dad-like humor that he was dishing out before, people turned on that very quickly.
Yeah.
A lot like with the Usos. People turn on things very quickly. I think there will come a point with the Usos that will happen, kind of going back to what you were saying before. Jerry Lawler, that did happen. People, the guy comes out for shows, for commentary before he went heel, gets big pops every time. People love the guy. Same with JBL. The guy's not a great commentator, especially nowadays.
Fantastic interviewer, though.
He is.
Legends with JBL is just one of the greatest interview segments I've seen on the network.
You saw the one with Ron Simmons?
Oh, I saw it, yeah.
It's very good. Oh,
my gosh. Just very, very sincere.
You got to find the right setting for these guys.
His demeanor in delivering questions, very thoughtful, extremely journalistic.
And he puts these people over while also asking the hard-hitting questions.
Yeah. I mean, and it very, very pro wrestling focused. I really appreciate all of the extra content that they've been coming up with. It's very valuable to understand the whole picture, or just to see glimpses of how these legends think of the business today. And very impressed.
I think it's great. Yeah, JBL, I mean, that's his niche for me. That's what he's best at. The commentary is kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit, but Jerry Lawler's great. He's come a long way. Mauro Ranallo, I feel like far and away the best commentator. It's not really a debate.
Saved
WWE today.
Saved Thursdays. I mean, saved SmackDown. Having a voice. Gino Cappelletti for me, announcing the Patriots games for my entire lifetime, up and until recently. He is still, in my mind, the voice of the New England Patriots. When you hear the color commentary level of detail that he would broadcast on WBCN when those Patriots games were on, it was like a theater. It was the greatest setting, the most perfect and eloquent placement of words to describe what was going on that field. And when you watch network television, football games, it's garbage. It's absolute internet clickbait fodder level of intelligence out there. And that's the difference between Raw and SmackDown on commentary right now. Mauro Ranallo is leagues better than anyone I've heard, including JR. He called a Super Frankensteiner correctly off of the top rope last week, and I lost my mind. I did to know the subtlety between a Hurricane Rana and a Super Frankensteiner. I don't even know if I would have caught it, but he did, and it was accurate. And I looked into it a little bit more, and I was very impressed with that. And those are the things that we have been saying as fans that we want for a long time, and they just, for whatever reason, never found the right fit or never made the right deal. And now that you can see it and you can see the difference, I appreciate both sides of commentary. I feel like you have a balance now, and you have a pro wrestling show and you have a sports entertainment show. Sports entertainment show is Raw. Even though it's jam-packed with matches, it's still just a lot of pop entertainment. SmackDown now is your pro wrestling show. You're going to see some incredible holds. You're going to see some really high spots. You are going to see A-plus commentary. You're going to see fast-paced matches, all of the things that modern professional wrestling is today. Fast, brutal, high-hitting, heavy-hitting, always on top of the mark. And I think that SmackDown this week, which is airing tonight, is just going to be a blockbuster again. It continues to push everybody's storyline forward, and whether or not they're hitting all of the depth in their roster that they could be hitting by having, characters that show up on Raw show up on SmackDown, I have to agree that the show is better off for it by having A-plus talent continue their storyline. It is now must-see. absolutely must see to continue what is going on Monday.
Arguably, the best SmackDown has ever been was 2002 to 2004, I would say, when it was the wrestling show. It wasn't the A show in terms of how WWE portrayed it, or the star. I mean, they had a hell of a lot of star power. They had more star power on SmackDown on one brand 15 years ago than they do today in the entire roster. But that's not a reflection of the current talent. It's just WWE, how they booked them. But anyway, SmackDown was at its peak from 2002 to 2004. And at that point, had some of the best wrestling that I've ever seen. You can go back on the network and watch them now. Every episode of SmackDown from 2003 is up on the network from the latter half of 2002 and the first few months of 2004. It's amazing. I have so much fun going back and watching those shows. The evolution of John Cena. Taker, before he became what he is today, as the Phenom once again. Brock Lesnar, as great as he is now, the wrestler Brock Lesnar, a completely different Lesnar than we see nowadays. Edge coming up, Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle, and Benoit having some of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen. It was great. We're kind of getting that once again with our current roster. You watch SmackDown now, and the renewed emphasis. I mean, I said this months ago when it was first announced that they were going to Thursday nights, or rather to USA Network, that the show, they would start to make it feel important again for the first month or so, to make it feel like they're making an effort before kind of going back to making it irrelevant. It's been a month, so I'll reserve my judgment until maybe March or April. We'll see. I'm going to SmackDown in the Garden on March 22nd. Looking forward to it. Brock Lesnar is going. He's going to be there, which is amazing. And I've already heard, I don't read spoilers for SmackDown. I just read like what's coming up on tonight's show. I have heard next week we're getting Brock Lesnar on SmackDown for the first time since 2004.
Is that not telling?
Incredible.
Is that not telling of
They never did it before.
of how good that show is right now?
They didn't do it. He's been back for 4 years. Why didn't they do it before now? Because SmackDown finally means something.
Yep.
You know?
It absolutely does. So, looking forward to everything tonight. Final thoughts?
Jericho and Miz also on SmackDown next week, too. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Jericho and Miz?
No, sorry, not Jericho and Miz.
It's going to be AJ.
Jericho and AJ next week on SmackDown.
Again.
Next
rematch.
Week. Yep.
Fantastic.
We'll find out more tonight on SmackDown.
Yeah. AJ's been making a huge impact since he landed. So I'm excited for everything that he's been building towards. His character immediately is building towards something with every appearance. Mm-hmm. Number 3 in the Royal Rumble, immediately being confronted by Chris Jericho, another person that made it almost to the end of the Royal Rumble. So clearly some very tenured guys here
immediately
have a lot of key strengths to compete against each other.
Yep.
Beats Chris Jericho, is called out by The Miz, is confronted by The Miz, and now is wrapped up in still confronting The Miz. I believe The Miz has established himself not only as a top entertainer and a top star, but he is still and continues to be a competitive athlete and force in any match he's in.
And say what you will about The Miz, the guy's a former WWE champion. I know Jack Swagger.
He does not eat a pin very often.
He doesn't.
Somehow he finds a way to win, and that's what makes a match against AJ a little bit dangerous. That unlike Jericho, where that Jericho is going to fight to his technical best and that's it, The Miz might do a couple extra things that Jericho wouldn't to force that win. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't doubt to see some foul play on The Miz's part just to be better than AJ, just to establish that this guy gets knocked down a rung by The Miz.
We'll see that on SmackDown.
Because he's awesome.
Exactly. He's The Miz and he is awesome. And that's something I don't really say. I'm looking forward to SmackDown, but WWE, since the start of 2016, has made me say it. I'm looking forward to SmackDown. I'm excited for the Blue Brand tonight. I wrote an article last week, cheap plug, hiddenremote.com, top 7 ways WWE's kicked off the year on a high note. It's only February 4th, and I feel like already this year, I'm not going to say, it's the greatest year in wrestling history, but they have really established a strong start to 2016. You could say the same thing about all of wrestling, but specifically WWE, that we kind of put a bit more focus on here today. SmackDown means something again. We got Austin Aries in NXT, Suzuki Nakamura, AJ Styles, enough said, in WWE on the main roster. Brock Lesnar's back right now. Jericho's back. Road to WrestleMania. Lot to look forward to. There's so much going on, and kind of going full circle. If you don't like this, you might like that. If you don't like this guy, you can like that guy. If you haven't liked anyone before the Royal Rumble, now you have AJ Styles. You have fresh faces that you can invest in, you can care about, buy their merch, watch them on Raw, if only for their segment. Helps those guys, helps the business, helps the fans. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan. I don't know how many days we are away from WrestleMania. I think it's like 50-something, 60-something around there. But we're, I think, 2 months from yesterday, April 3rd. So the road to WrestleMania is off to a very strong start. And to say I'm excited is an understatement. NXT TakeOver Dallas is going to be, I don't know if you've heard the card, or I know that it's kind of a spoiler. I won't reveal it here, but I saw the spoiler-free card for TakeOver Dallas. It's incredible. Like, better than anything I've ever seen in my 8 years as a wrestling fan. So we'll see. And
that's what we got. We got that coming up in future shows. Coming up next week, we're going to be diving into more NXT. We got Vaudevillains. We got Enzo and Cass. We have Emma and Dana Brooke. I want to talk a little bit about they're going up against Carmella recently. We got Regal's decision to put Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn into a number one contenders match to face Finn for the strap. So
is that next week?
Baron Corbin out of the picture for the moment.
For now.
Good. I mean, I like
Baron Corbin, but
you lost, and that's what's going to happen.
Wins and losses matter in NXT, people.
Yes, they matter. They do. That's who determines who gets the next opportunity, and we're going to see more and talk more a little bit next time about Asuka and Santana Garrett. Fantastic matchup
Can't wait
there.
to talk about that.
Two very, very competitive, differently styled athletes that I can't get enough of. Asuka, my favorite right now.
Two of the best women's wrestlers in the world. I just want to say that right now.
So more ahead from WWEC Radio. This is Tommy Sharp.
Graham Giuseppe Matthews.
All right. See you next time, y'all.
July evening view, up and down Grand Avenue, where the legends get made, out with the boys brigade, part of the motorcade. From Texas last night, slept on the flight, work like a dog all day, born to chase cars away, die on the road someday. I try to remember what life was like long ago, but it's gone, Climb the turnbuckle high, take 2 falls out of 3, blackout for local TV.